This video is a compilation of close to 100 structures that I saw over the summer of 2016. The structure here is a teepee structure right off of a major trail. It is probably one of the most spectacular of all that I saw, for the simple reason that it's all by itself in the middle of a clearing, completely freestanding, and impossible to be made by humans. Also, there is absolutely no way that heavy equipment could have come in and helped make this structure. The structure did not fall out of the air. It was made by something. I think that something was Sasquatch. Here's another freestanding teepee that is right off of a major trail. This is smaller in structure than the previous one and could have been made by people because none of the upright sticks or trees are that large. But nothing has been tied in this. Everything has been locked together and the weight or pressure of one used to hold up the branches nearby. So it's made unlike anything that I've ever taught or seen people make. Here's another freestanding teepee. This is much older, and I tell that by how weathered the members of this teepee are. I would say this is 10 to 20 years old. The interesting thing is that center portion is a tree that is upside down and is forked and used to hold up the entire teepee structure. This is also off a trail that's very seldom used and may very well not have been seen by anybody but some deer hunters over the last several years. This is a smaller structure, all based around a standing tree. I would guess this may be something made by some juvenile Sasquatches to copy the adults. This is in a forest away from any major trails or roads. This seems to be a structure as a territory structure, and I'm not really giving any definition as to why. You'll notice something about this. Basically all the branches or trees in this structure have been stripped of their bark, and they're all aspens, even though we're in a pine forest. Here's another structure, a little simpler in construction, but most of the bark has also been peeled away, and I believe they are all aspens in this case. I feel the fact that these are primarily aspens making up these structures in the center of pine forest to be significant. And the reason for that is that, in my opinion, the Sasquatch are probably feeding on these aspens, stripping the bark and eating the inner bark. Here's another very large teepee structure made of 3 members. All of these trees are way too big to be even put together with 20 men. And the way they're interlocked, there's no way in the world that these could have just fallen this way. They're on a hillside deep in the forest, and there's been no large machinery has come into here to put these things up. And here's another teepee structure very close to the previous one. This next structure I'm about to see is really interesting to me. It's fairly simple, but incredibly complex in how it was put together. And I came into this section on July 29th of last year, and this structure was not there. When I returned on August 3rd, this structure appeared. The light-colored tree going away from the camera is holding the gray tree that goes across the screen upright because it's being pushed against a crook in the tree of the upright tree. If it wasn't for the weight of the light-colored tree, the gray tree would fall. Also, the butt portion of the upright tree is pointing up in the air. Here I've got just more examples of what I consider to be territorial structures. And the list of them is almost endless for the difference that I see. There's some similarities to them, but it's kind of amazing how different they can all be. This next structure is one of the most interesting I found. I actually walked underneath some of those upright branches, and it wasn't until I came back and got a distant look at it that I could tell what it was. That's approximately 15 or so trees that are 50 to 60 feet long leaning up in a teepee. And this begins what I consider structures for structure's sake. But in my opinion, these aren't territorial structures. For the most part, these are aspens that have been stripped of the bark, leaned up against pines in the pine forests, and in my opinion have been used to be fed upon. I literally found thousands of these trees leaned up like this in various forms and various structures all over. The territorial structures were maybe 1 in 20 in relation to these structures of smaller aspens that were leaned up in all sorts of ways. Now, of course, that's my opinion, but the word Algonquin means bark eater. That's an eastern tribe of Indians. And it's been well known for years that there are numerous types of trees where the bark is edible, and aspen is one of those trees. White pine's another, poplars are another, birches apparently are another. So the fact that Sasquatches are eating these is not to be unexpected. The fact that you've got a 500 to 1,200 pound animal that needs between 10,000 to 20,000 calories a day living in this forest means that they have to find some source of calories that is going to leave a major footprint or sign that they've been feeding in the forest. Now, I figure, based on what I've seen, that they probably access these trees from late winter through the spring when they turn to other things. And this last picture basically are just a bunch of small sticks lined up against a tree. Does it have any real meaning? I think it's probably a young Sasquatch just mimicking what it's been seen, but who knows, that's just my opinion. I hope this has been interesting.